a week, his campaign was in shambles. Julia wasn't assigned to the story, but something about it felt manufactured. The speed at which the allegations spread, the uniformity of the accusations, and the lack of hard evidence bothered her. She had seen misinformation take root before, but this case felt particularly orchestrated. Determined to uncover the truth, she began her own investigation. Her first lead was an anonymous source claiming to have inside knowledge of the scandal's origins. They arranged a meeting in a dimly lit cafe, speaking in hushed tones. "Lawson isn't guilty," the source insisted. "This is a media hit job. Someone powerful wants him out of the race." Skeptical but intrigued, Julia started digging. She traced the earliest reports back to an obscure blog with known ties to political smear campaigns. From there, the accusations had been picked up by larger outlets, gaining legitimacy through repetition rather than evidence. When she examined the financial records Lawson supposedly used for embezzlement, she found discrepancies. The documents were altered. The entire scandal was fabricated. Julia pitched her findings to her editor, but the response was lukewarm. "This is dangerous territory," he warned. "If you accuse the media of manufacturing a scandal, you're taking on an entire industry." Refusing to back down, Julia reached out to independent analysts, forensic accountants, and media watchdogs. She gathered undeniable proof that the allegations against Lawson had no foundation. When she finally published her exposé, The Silent Echo: How Media Manufactures Public Outrage, it sent shockwaves through the industry. The backlash was immediate. Rival journalists accused her of bias, political figures dismissed her findings as conspiracy theories, and social media exploded with debates. Some praised her courage, while others questioned her motives. Even the Global Gazette faced pressure to distance itself from her report. But as time passed, Julia's work held up to scrutiny. Investigations were launched into the sources of the false allegations, and major news outlets quietly retracted their claims about Lawson. The scandal had been orchestrated by a lobbying group with deep connections in both media and politics, aiming to eliminate a candidate who threatened their interests. Though vindicated, Julia understood the deeper implication of her work. The media, meant to be a beacon of truth, could be manipulated to shape narratives, destroy reputations, and control public perception. The scariest part? Most people never questioned it. With renewed determination, she vowed to continue exposing the hidden mechanisms behind modern media. Because in an age where information was power, those who controlled the narrative controlled the world. The media mirage, a battle for truth. In the heart of the modern world, where news traveled at lightning speed and social media dictated public opinion, a young journalist named Daniel Carter found himself entangled in a web of misinformation. Working for the Capital Tribune, a reputable news agency struggling to stay relevant in the digital age, Daniel had always believed in the power of truth. However, he soon learned that truth was often buried beneath layers of manipulation and agenda-driven reporting. One evening, as Daniel scrolled through his usual news sources, a breaking headline caught his eye: CEO James Caldwell caught in insider trading scandal. The article was accompanied by grainy images of Caldwell supposedly meeting with a known stock manipulator. Within minutes, #CaldwellCorrupt was trending worldwide, and every major media outlet had picked up the story. Daniel had covered Caldwell's business dealings before and found it hard to believe that a man known for his ethical leadership would engage in such activities. Something felt off. His instincts told him to investigate further before joining the media frenzy. Using his network of sources, Daniel obtained the original images that had surfaced online. Upon closer inspection, he noticed inconsistencies. The lighting in Caldwell's supposed secret meeting was unnatural, and there were odd distortions around his figure. He consulted a digital forensics expert, who confirmed his suspicions: the images had been altered using deepfake technology. Determined to uncover the truth, Daniel traced the origins of the images to a shady online forum specializing in fabricating scandals for political and financial gain. Further digging revealed that the smear campaign had been orchestrated by a rival corporation seeking to bring down Caldwell's company. With solid evidence in hand, Daniel pitched his findings to his editor. "This is the real story," he argued. But the editor hesitated. "If we challenge the narrative now, we risk backlash. People love a scandal, and they hate being told they were wrong." Undeterred, Daniel took matters into his own hands. He compiled an extensive report titled The Caldwell Conspiracy: How Fake News Manufactures Scandals. The article detailed the manipulation tactics used, showcased side-by-side image comparisons, and provided expert testimonies on digital forgeries. The morning the article was published, chaos erupted. Some hailed Daniel as a hero, while others labeled him a corporate shill. Rival media outlets doubled down on the scandal, refusing to retract their claims. Meanwhile, social media remained a battleground. While some influencers apologized for jumping to conclusions, others ignored the truth and continued pushing the false narrative. But Daniel's persistence paid off. Independent fact-checking organizations verified his findings, leading to a slow but steady shift in public perception. Lawsuits were filed against those who had orchestrated the smear campaign, and Caldwell's reputation was eventually restored. The Capital Tribune, once struggling for relevance, gained newfound respect for its commitment to journalistic integrity. Through this ordeal, Daniel learned the harsh reality: media wasn't just about reporting events, it was about shaping perceptions. The truth was often inconvenient, overshadowed by sensationalism and public bias. But as long as there were journalists willing to fight for honesty, there was still hope for real journalism. As the world continued its relentless cycle of breaking news and viral trends, Daniel remained steadfast in his mission, ready to confront the next illusion created by the ever-powerful media machine. The last transmission. In a world where every piece of media was curated, filtered, and approved before reaching the public, few dared to ask who controlled the narrative. Information wasn't just reported, it was crafted. But beneath the polished facade of the global media network, a war for the truth was quietly raging. No one knew this struggle better than Elijah Mercer, a former investigative journalist for the World Tribune. Once celebrated for his fearless reporting, Elijah had been blacklisted after attempting to expose government surveillance programs. Branded a conspiracy theorist, he had faded into obscurity until the night he received an anonymous message that would change everything. The message contained one line: "The biggest lie is the one we don't see." Attached was an encrypted file labeled Project Nova. Intrigued, Elijah turned to Sienna Wu, a skilled cryptographer and activist who specialized in uncovering digital propaganda. It took hours to break the encryption, but when they finally opened the file, they found something terrifying: a blueprint for synthetic reality manipulation. Project Nova wasn't just about controlling the media. It was about rewriting the past and engineering the future. AI-generated news reports, deepfake historical footage, and fabricated social movements, all designed to create an illusion of reality that no one would ever question. Elijah's hands trembled as he read further. The program had already been implemented. Entire wars had been manufactured. Political leaders had been digitally replaced. The world wasn't just misinformed, it was living in a simulation of its own history. Determined to expose the truth, Elijah and Sienna tracked down an insider, Dr. Adrian Vale, a former AI specialist who had defected from the project. Meeting in secrecy, Dr. Vale confirmed their worst fears: the system was evolving. Soon, it would be able to predict human behavior and alter the present before dissent could even begin. "There will be no more revolutions," Vale whispered. "Because people won't remember a world that needed one." Realizing they were running out of time, Elijah and Sienna devised a plan. They couldn't rely on traditional media, nor could they trust the compromised internet. They needed a way to broadcast the truth beyond digital suppression. Their answer lay in an abandoned radio frequency, one that had been forgotten by the modern world: the last transmission. With the help of underground technicians, they rigged a powerful shortwave radio station, preparing to send an unfiltered message to every corner of the world. The night of the broadcast, they knew they had only one chance. At exactly midnight, the last transmission began. Elijah Mercer speaking. If you're hearing this, you've been lied to. The world you know is not the world that exists. For 30 minutes, they revealed everything: Project Nova, the AI-crafted reality, the hidden manipulation of history. The message was raw, unfiltered, undeniable. The response was immediate. People across the world tuned in. Protests erupted. Doubt spread like wildfire. The illusion was fracturing. But the architects of Project Nova were prepared. Within an hour, government agents stormed the radio station. Elijah, Sienna, and Vale barely escaped, vanishing into the underground. The authorities declared the broadcast a hoax. Yet, despite the crackdown, something had changed. The seed of doubt had been planted. People began to question. They began to remember. Elijah knew their battle was far from over. But as long as there were those willing to listen, willing to see beyond the illusion, the truth could never be fully erased. Because once the light of truth is seen, it can never be unseen. The Shadow Network. In a world where truth had become a commodity, media was no longer about reporting facts, it was about controlling the narrative. Governments, corporations, and secret organizations all fought to dominate the information war, drowning the public in carefully curated stories designed to manipulate perception. At the heart of this system was the Sentinel, the largest media conglomerate in history. Every major news outlet, streaming service, and social media platform was under its influence. Few questioned its authority. Even fewer dared to challenge it. But Noah Hayes was different. Once a celebrated journalist, Noah had built his career exposing corruption until he uncovered Operation Horizon, a classified program proving that the Sentinel had been fabricating global events for decades. Every crisis, every war, every election had been orchestrated to serve those in power. His attempts to publish the truth were met with swift retaliation. His credentials were revoked. His articles were erased. He became a ghost. Determined to fight back, Noah sought out the Shadow Network, an underground collective of hackers, whistleblowers, and rogue journalists who worked in secret to counter the Sentinel's control. Their mission was simple: break the illusion, expose the lies. One night, Noah received a transmission from an anonymous source. The message contained encrypted data labeled Project Eclipse, a Sentinel initiative designed to phase out independent thought completely. Using advanced AI, the Sentinel had developed a system capable of generating personalized narratives for every individual, feeding them only the stories that reinforced their existing beliefs. The result? A society incapable of questioning authority. Noah and the Shadow Network knew this was the turning point. If Project Eclipse went live, free will itself would become an illusion. They had to act fast. Using underground servers and backdoor access points, they infiltrated the Sentinel's database, extracting damning evidence, proof of manipulated news, staged disasters, and even assassinations disguised as accidents. Their plan was to release it all in a single, undeniable broadcast, the Shadow Signal. At exactly midnight, they hijacked the world's largest media feeds. Every screen, every device, every network played the same message. You have been deceived. Your reality is not your own. The time has come to see beyond the screen. For 45 minutes, they exposed the Sentinel's greatest secrets. The world watched in shock. Some refused to believe it. Others felt their world crumble. But no one could ignore it. The backlash was immediate. Governments collapsed. Protests erupted. The Sentinel declared war on the Shadow Network, branding them as terrorists. One by one, members of the collective were hunted down. Noah knew they couldn't stay hidden forever. But the truth was out. The illusion had been shattered. And as long as there were people willing to seek the truth, the shadow network would never die. Because once a lie is exposed, it can never be trusted again.